Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to another Club Grubbery. It's a ripper tonight, Johnny, on Tuesday, the 17th of December, as we record this. Great to see you back on, mate.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, great to be back on, and yeah, another stellar crew.
Another stellar crew, and it is. And this is the beginning of a series that'll be ongoing until the federal election is over and done with. From time to time, Club Grubbery will be bringing candidates who are going to be running in the next federal election to announce their policies and talk about their candidacy and their experiences. The whole idea being to give everyone a broad spectrum look at who the candidates are, what their policies are, and so that you're informed on who you vote for, because never has there been a more important time to know what you're talking about and know what you're doing when you go in there ticking boxes. So we welcome you to this, the first in the series. And we have on screen, alongside me, we have Tristan Van Rye, otherwise known as Tricky, who's very well known amongst people all around Australia for his activism in the last few years and the work that he's done with the AVN, the Australian Vaccine Network in protecting children, has been outstanding. And we came to know you a lot better, Tricky, when John and I were at the 30th anniversary with Meryl Dorey and Anita Huffmeister and others. And it was great to see that side of you, because we don't actually get to see that much with your activism on the streets. But it was really great to see your passion in regards to all this. So welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, John. It was great to see you there as well.
And we also have Mariya Shumandiy, who's joining us from the Sunshine Coast. Mariya, you're running as well, and we're going to be talking about what you're running for and what you guys are doing in just a moment. So welcome to the program.
Thanks, Graham. I don't know if to call you Graham or Hoodie.
Doesn't matter. As long as you don't call me captain, I only ever get called that when I'm in. And of course, we have Nick Patterson, who's known to everybody for his strength of activism and also for his challenge of the Victorian Police over many years of harsh treatment. Nick, great to see you on, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. I really appreciate it.
Right. So what you guys are doing is pretty. I think I get the gist of it. You've started a party called Power to People. That's power, the word power, the number two, and people. And it sounds like it's a cooperative amongst independents. Tricky, what do you say? Am I describing it right?
Yep, you're getting pretty close to it. But I just want to start by saying this, if you don't mind, Woody. The political system, I believe, was designed by corrupt people for corrupt people to do corrupt things. I think a large part of the problem we're experiencing these days in Australia and probably around the world as well is that it's the political parties and the politicians have sold us out to a great deal, and that's a big part of why we're in this mess at the moment. But it is true that we must use all tools at our disposal. For example, the court system. Everybody knows there can be times where that is quite a corrupt system to be part of. There's corrupt judges involved. But people like Nick Patterson, who's here with us tonight, obviously, has had a great win recently against the Victorian Police. So that shows that we still can, if we use our smarts, we can use these systems to our advantage and take some steps forward. The political system, if you put good people in the right places at the right time, and we go in with a proper strategy, we definitely can use that system to our advantage and help reclaim this country for the people. There's massive problems at all avenues in this country at the moment. And if we don't start looking to utilize these existing systems, we're going to fight a very hard, long-fought war. If the more smart we can become with these systems, the existing systems, and use that to our advantage and slowly change things in the future so we don't go back to where we come from, that's going to be a big positive going forward. Now, what we've started here is something called Power to People, and it's a party of independence. But we're still going to run it as a party, which means we can still work as a team, we can still share resources, but the representatives for the different electorates will still maintain their identity, and there won't be any forced voting. So one of the biggest problems at the moment is that we see certain parties, major parties and minor parties, that force votes, and there's a party whip which enforces that vote within the party. So that will have nothing to do with that, because what we want is our representatives in the different electorates to truly maintain direct contact with their constituents and truly get an indication of how those people want them to vote. this is a major difference that needs to start happening in this country. And the other main difference here, guys, is that in fact we're not politicians. Um, you know, we're not the career politicians that are worried about getting the seat back and getting the paychecks. We're hardworking men and women from the community that have proven themselves, no money involved. We want change. We've all got skin in the game for, one reason or another, and we're here to make difference. This is something for the people to slowly start gripping our way back in. And we're not saying we're going to shut this off from the politicians. There's some really good politicians out there, like Jared Rennick, you said, for one, as an example. And I've discussed this theory with him over the last 18 months when he was getting pushed towards the outside of that Liberal Party that he was in. And our plan is to bring all of these good guys under one banner so we can work together, pool our resources, and really start climbing back. Now, we are aware that it might take some time and some people to get their heads around what we're trying to achieve here, because to do this, you have to leave your sort of, I guess, in a sense, you have to leave your identity behind, or your old flag or your own banner. So it might be a couple of steps to get there. The first step might be just an alliance that we form, and the minor parties, independents, come to the alliance. They maintain their identity, but it's an alliance. I guess it's like the coalition, except it's for good people. It's for good independents, good parties to come under, and we agree on the base core foundations of everything, and everything outside of that, we'll get along with as we go. But we have to start organizing now. Like you said, we're running out of time. 2025 is the federal election. So we really are calling tonight for the people's support to get behind us, because the whole essence of what we are doing is to bring the good parties and the good independents together under one banner, and we can push this forward together.
Johnny.
Well, I suppose, Tricky, some people might be a bit confused by what you're saying there, because what you're trying to do something similar to GAP? Is that what you sort of?
As far as I'm aware, GAP is just a minor party, or minor party that are running on their own accord under their own flag.
No, I think what John was meaning was CADCA, Commonwealth of Australia Democratic Cooperative. That was formed by Jason Miles and Rod Cullerton. They brought a few of the minor parties together in this cooperative arrangement. Rather than calling it a coalition, it was a cooperative. So they tried that. The biggest hurdles they ran into were each of the parties that were looking at joining refused to join because they could see themselves operating as a power in their own right. So that really brought it undone, sadly. But the idea is great. Is that what you're doing, John?
Yeah, is that what you're looking at, Tricky?
Well, I speak with Jason a lot of the time, and I've never heard that was the angle GAP had run. So if that is the case, well, there's more conversations to be had to find out what went wrong, so we can learn from that. For this to be successful, everybody's got to really agree on what the main points and the main focus and the main goals are going forward. And then we just all have to say, well, you know what, I've worked hard on building this label or this party or this brand for this many years, but if there is a better way to be doing it, then we sort of need to really start focusing on that and leave the ego. I don't really like using this word anymore because it is overused, but it also is true. You guys have been part of the freedom movement for a little while now, and it's rampant. The egos are rampant, and a lot of the time, decisions and actions that people take are not based on what is in the best interest for the people going forward, but it's based on egos and self-indulgence and fame and all that sort of stuff. So, I've been here for about 8 years now doing this activism stuff, and it's come to a point where this is why I put my hand up. I've been pushed in this direction for a number of years, which I've sort of resisted. Watching how certain legislation has been just scraping through in recent times makes you really wonder if we can get a few more good people, especially in the Senate. I believe that we can start not just blocking this legislation, but starting to get our own stuff up. But we have to get organized to do that. And I'm all ears, and a lot of people have more experience in this field, and we're happy to hear from them and build on it. But Nick might have something to say about GAP, because he has had a chat with Rod quite often as well.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of Rod, and I get along with him really well. I think what he's doing is great, and I look forward to working with him. We're building this up from the foundation of integrity. So the people that are in our group, we all know we have integrity, so the values are there. And then we bring people in who we know have been vetted that have that same integrity. We can also align with other people in other parties or other minor parties that also have integrity. And if there's minor parties that don't, and we're not sure about them, we just can't align with them, because that's the whole principle. You want to be built on true principles. You want to be built on the rock, which of course you guys would understand that the parable of the wise man builds his house upon the rock, okay, the firm foundation. And that's the idea, because I've spent a lot of time. I was in the Liberal Party for 4 years. This was years ago. This is when the safe schools first came in, and there was a lot of Christian people that joined for the purpose of getting rid of this. One, clean up the Liberal Party, and the other reason they got into the party was to remove the safe schools program. Neither of those were successful, and the Liberal Party's continued to be as corrupt as you can get. I mean, just look what happened to Moira Deeming, right? For nothing, just because she's a moral, decent woman, and that's obviously that's the state, but it's irrelevant. This is what the party is. I mean, I got kicked out of the Liberal Party as a delegate when I was trying to. I literally, this is a story I don't think I've shared with you, you guys on this channel before, but I was trying to debate my own motion, and it was a motion to open up a number of child abuse cases. One of them that has an ongoing petition. It's had a book written about it, and it's had a documentary made about it. And I was kicked out of the state council when I was a delegate trying to debate my own motion. So I don't have any faith in the major parties at all. I think if we had a coalition of minor parties that have integrity, and maybe some of them they weren't aligned, or maybe there were some egos, but over time, a lot of those things can be smoothed out over time, and that's the point. Like we've just got to go back to integrity and fundamental principles. Now, we're not going to win win over everybody with our particular position and our stance. We're not going to be the biggest voice out there, but we do want to be a larger voice and a louder voice to the people than we are right now, doing just our own activism. And one thing I believe that we can do is we could draw in a lot of people that aren't in the freedom movement at the moment. Like I have my own community. I'm very well known in the gym community, and in the martial arts community, and the fight community, all around the state and the country. I know loads of people. My wife's a fight promoter. I used to do fight promotions as well. I still do commentary on the fight events. So there's an audience of people there that we can bring in, and a lot of these people are younger people, because we need to get those younger people activated and focused on the actual problems. Then we have, I've been involved in a lot of the Christian churches. So I think that's the biggest community that we have, even though they're very much divided. But we can do some peacemaker work there and try to bring a lot of these people together. But I think the idea is that we bring in our own people, like our own people that aren't really politically activated. We bring them in. We have a campaign of doing that, rather than dividing the already divided freedom vote. That's not what we're targeting. So it is a different process than, say, some of these other parties that have popped up during all the COVID lockdowns, and there's a lot of these minor parties that have popped up because of that, and their main voter base is the what we call the freedom movement. We don't want to be that. And I'm not saying we don't want votes from there, but we want to bring in a lot of people who would vote for us and support us, who are people that aren't even activated into politics. And a lot of people, the reason they're not activated and focused on anything political is because they don't believe that there's any way to solve the problems that exist politically. And a lot of people have said to me they don't believe there's a political solution, and I believe that for a little while, but if you break it down, the actual problems that we have and the solutions to the bare bones, it all comes down to people having courage and confidence to do what's moral and correct. That's the big issue, right? So really all we need to do is get a voice. And with our voice, I have a voice now, I have a voice on your channel, but it would be great to have an even larger, louder voice in which we could reach people and to the very core of who they are, to their heart, their will, and invoke and inspire in them that warrior spirit to go and fight for their culture, their values, and all those principles that are being stolen from them right now. And a lot of people don't believe they can solve the problem, they can be effective at doing anything, or they just don't believe they can win. So we have to invoke faith and confidence for them to do something. And once people believe that we can win, and we can actually fix our country out, and we can get rid of the dregs that are in there that are basically, and the parasites that are sucking all of the life force out of our country. Once people believe that, you just need a critical mass to believe it and start, and then the current starts to flow in that direction. Once people see that there is a current flowing in that direction, that will invoke more confidence in others to do the same. And there's too many parties out there doing the same thing, they're using the same political algorithm, and they're getting nowhere. So we want to do something very different, and we're not going to share all of our plans and all of our our whole agenda of how we're going to do this and every little plan that we're going to have. We're going to keep some of that to ourselves for now, because strategy is strategy. You want to reveal your strategy when it's time. But that's the fundamentally, to the bare bones of what it is we're doing, is we want to reach people with a louder voice, to be active and activated. Like, think of it like an activation switch. Switch that activation switch on in people, inspire them, the spirit in, to be confident enough to go and do everything that they need to do to fix this country and do what's right. So it goes back to the Bible verse, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. We've got a light in us, and we need to let that light shine. When the light shines, it inspires people, and people then go, yeah, that resonates with me. I want to do that as well. But what we lack is courage. We saw that in COVID. How many people just was too scared to do what they knew was right? And I saw that straight off the bat when the police came to my gym the first time, and my mate and I were out the front talking with the police. I had a whole gym full of fighters. There's about 25 people in there. We had quite a few pro fighters in there as well. We had an international fighter in our gym as well. Everybody bar one ran out the back of the gym and climbed over barbed wire fences in fear of the police. They didn't even have the confidence to stand up to them. Now, I think some of it was fun too. I think some of it was like, the police are here. So there was that element too. But courage is what's lacking. So we just need to invoke that in the people again, to have courage. Once people believe that we can win and they start to have courage again, then we're winning. And through this political party, that'll be one way that we can actually, invoke some change, as opposed to trying to come up with some massive, big, complicated solution. We're going to solve all of our problems with this 10-part plan. That's a load of rubbish. We just need people to believe in themselves and have the confidence and courage to actually do what they know is morally right, because we've already got a conscience that confirms what's right and wrong. We just need to have the courage and confidence to actually follow that through.
Sean.
Mariya, where do you see it taking us? I've got to say, I'm a little bit confused with what you're trying to achieve. I think what you're saying is that you're sort of wanting to drag people away from the mainstream, and I presume you're basically wanting to come up with a system that encourages them to vote for you. But if they're not going to vote for you, then you give a green tick to other parties, perhaps, or other independents that are like-minded for your votes to flow onto. Is that where you're sort of thinking, Mariya?
You're on mute, Mariya. Hey, Mariya, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I think the key point of difference here is that a lot of the minor parties or independent parties, they're preferencing the red or the green still. So that's the concern. There's a lot of misrepresentation in terms of what people think they stand for versus what they actually do on the ballot paper. And we saw this really fundamentally in the state election here in Queensland. Really dominated, by the major parties, but the smaller parties were still preferencing preferencing Liberal or Labor. So the point of difference that we have is that we are going to truly stay independent. We're not doing this for any personal gain. I've said this many times. I've never had an interest in politics. I'm not a politician, but I believe that it's more important now than ever to really block a lot of these laws that are being passed in the Senate. And that's why we've decided to run for the federal election and not as MPs for the state. So that's really where I guess the magic happens, or in this current state of country, it's where a lot of these absolutely corrupt laws are being passed. So exposing the corruption is something that myself, Tristan and Nick are all really, really passionate about. That's how that's how my journey started. I wasn't aware of how deep the corruption runs in Australia and infiltrates every industry and every system, unfortunately, until early 2020, when I was personally affected by it, as we all were. And I started researching and looking into it and realizing that Australia is actually, wrapped in a beautiful present, and everyone thinks that it's very lawful, and the politicians think in their best interest, act in their best interest, that our systems are flawless. We've got great taxation in place. And until you actually start to unwrap that present and actually see that it's quite intelligent in terms of how the corruption is not on the forefront like it is in Asia, for example, or in third world countries where it's really in your face. You can see that there's poverty and there's corruption, and it's visible. In Australia, it's a lot more sinister in terms of how it's covered up, and until you actually start looking into how a lot of everything goes back to the same organisations, the same corporations, they're international bodies. None of them are local, none of them are Australian even, and how we are just literally selling our country every day. We're selling it off, more and more of it. We're selling our natural resources.
Mariya, they're giving it away, actually, a lot of it. They're just giving it away for free.
It's 3 dirty deals. That's right. That's right. So, and I think the other big point of difference about us is that we've really, I guess, bring a fresh face to politics, because a lot of the current political parties are stuck in don't appeal to the younger audience. And really, where we're finding that a lot of the under 30s, they're the ones that are really, unfortunately, completely not misrepresented, but their misunderstanding in terms of what is currently happening in Australia. They are being brainwashed at all levels through the education system, at primary school, upper school, high school, and through university. In every, in large industries, through corporations as well. So I guess when I was growing up, it didn't stem as low as it does now with the brainwashing and the agendas that, for example, through the education system, one of our key policies is to protect young children from being exposed to sexually explicit material. I don't remember when I went to school that I was exposed to any sexually explicit material. I didn't even know what that meant until I was, a older teen or an adult. So it's really, really disturbing. And that's why we feel that it's really, really important for us to make a change. Yeah.
So are you running in the Senate, Mariya, or in the lower house?
We're going to be running in the Senate.
The reason for that, John, good question, is over the last 7 or 8 years, I guess, but mainly the last 5 with TPR, speaking for myself here, is that I don't feel we're in a strong enough position to have enough support in any one electorate. However, when you run in the Senate, the whole of the state gets to see your name and logo on the ballot paper. And I think over the last 5 years, what TPR has built up, I think that puts us in a good position. Still going to be a bloody tough feat to pull off, but I believe that we can do it. This is why we're putting our time and energy into it. I think we can do it. I just want to clear up to any confusion too, because if you're confused about it still, John, there's probably other people that are watching this that will be confused as well. Ideally, the game plan here is to bring everybody that we find decent and they align with our core values and vice versa under one banner. They maintain their identity, but we're running that under one banner. However, like I said earlier, there may be a couple of steps to get there first because of the reasons we've mentioned, and that would be instead an alliance gets formed. And the advantage of having that is just say Party A has a really strong candidate in one of the electorates. Because we're part of the alliance, we then have a discussion why the other parties won't be running any candidates in that electorate. And we will, not only that, but we'll be strongly encouraging the whole of the alliance to get in contact with all of their constituents and make sure they vote for Party A, that candidate in that electorate. That way, we're not splitting the votes anymore. We're actually funneling them to where they go. And that will greatly increase our chances of having success where we're trying to have the success. But for that to happen again, we need some really good, strong minds to come together, put everything else to the side and agree on what we need to do to go forwards. And we build this thing from the ground up. And this is what we're trying to achieve with this. One more very quickly thing, it's very, I wanted to actually mention this at the start, but I haven't yet. We're in phase 1, which is still collecting the members. We've only got about 150 members we need at the time of this interview. So if anybody watching would like to become a member of our Power to People, just go to the website, Power to People. So it's power, the number 2 people.com.au, and there's a sign up form there. The major issue we've been having so far is that the details have to match what's on that Australian electoral roll. It's mainly the middle name. So in my example, I had to remove my middle name for it to show up. So you may need to include or exclude your middle name. Once you do that in the AEC, it takes 30 seconds, go to our website, fill it in, you're done.
Or the address. Sometimes it's the address. With me, it was the address.
Right.
Yeah. And it doesn't cost anything to join the party. And I'd just like to quickly reiterate, this isn't the solution to the problems. This is just part of the solution. What we need to do is have a louder voice, because it's our voice that is how we break down the strongholds. It always is. That's why they want to bring in legislation to restrict their ability to speak, because they know, the people that are trying to take and steal everything from us, they know the power of our voice. It's very powerful. That's how we break down the false narratives which these people use to give themselves more power and take more of the resources from us. So it's about having a louder voice, and having a louder voice in specific strategic places, being one of them being the Senate. And it also opens doors up for us to be able to share our voices and influence people in all different organisations. That's one of the big tools that we that we can use this party for, is literally as a tool to get our voices heard, because we want to be heard. Because we want to, like, the reason that I speak up the way I do, it's not because I'm a natural speaker or anything, because I'm not. I'm absolutely not. It was my biggest fear, but I just do it because I need to do it. I know it needs to be done. And same thing with Tristan. He speaks up because he sees there's an issue, and when you speak the truth, what does it do to the lie? Well, it breaks it down. And a really good example of this is we lost 50% of our police during the COVID madness. About midway through that 4-year period, because of the size of our rallies and because the narrative broke down. 50% of our police. Now, about 30% of them left, and there was about 20% that went on leave and just, they were on stress leave or whatever it was. So 50% of the police leaving, and then they rehired, and now we're still down about 20 to 30%. So what that shows us is that when the narrative is broken, the people above, they can't get people to enforce their agendas anymore. So that's very powerful. And we need to believe in our speech. We need to understand how powerful of a weapon that is, and we need to use it. And I think we need to use it more. And politics is one of the places where it needs to be used more. And I think that's why we have that saying exists, that we don't talk about politics or religion, which are the two probably most important things we should be talking about. But I just wanted to clarify that, mate. Sorry for interjecting.
I just want to say one thing, that we all bag politicians. You know, we're very quick to label all politicians into one group. I've known a few that went in there for all the right reasons, and they were passionate about their constituents and their electorates, and they got caned. One in particular was a Labor senator for the Northern Territory, who was done out of her position by Julia Gillard, who made a captain's pick and kicked out one of the hardest working politicians in Canberra. I know, because I was always flying in and out of Darwin, and this particular lady was on board the flight virtually every time. Got to know her really well. When she was elected into the Senate and attended her office in Canberra on the first day, she was briefed by a bureaucrat and told to put all her notions of altruism to one side. She plays the game, or she's not going to go anywhere. I also spoke to a prominent senator who's been on this program a number of times, and I said to him, "What's it like being a senator? What's it like? What's your work life like?" He said, "It's 24/7. And when you're in Parliament, it's like pushing a wheelbarrow full of cow manure through treacle. It's almost immovable, right?" So a lot of us go in, we think about these things, we can make incredible change. And you can't make change unless you're in the system. But how do you feel? Do we need to go down the American road where Donald Trump is clearly wanting to drain the swamp? Do we have to do that in order to get the people's voice heard in the Australian Parliament?
That's an interesting point, Hoodie, because one of our main policies isn't actually a policy at all. It's the fact that using the stance that you have as a senator, summoning these bureaucrats in, requesting the information which they have to provide, using that information to launch investigations and start putting some of these guys in prison. Now, to do that, you need really staunch people in there that aren't scared of, like you said, these friendly bureaucrats that will come and tap you on the shoulder and have a word to you quietly when nobody's looking. You need people in there that have been through the trenches already and they're ready to go and go in for the whole sole purpose of taking some of these guys out. These bureaucrats that make these decisions completely free of any sort of public scrutiny whatsoever. These are the guys that need to be targeted. There is a lot of, I'm sure with some good people inside, we can really start extracting information and punishing these guys, put them behind bars, set an example, and start slowly reclaiming, putting more good people in. This has to be our number one goal when we get in there. But like you said, Hoodie, you've personally known some really good politicians that were there, and they found it very difficult. That's no secret, that is going to be a strong wall that people are going to come up against when they go in there with these intentions. And we've had discussions in private about this, and we do foresee if we make it in there, when we make it in there, there's going to be big targets on our back, bigger than what we've had previously. And I've had a lot of police attention and harassment and intimidation campaigns against myself, and I expect that's going to be about that big by the time we get into the Senate. We're going to start ripping these walls down. That's the plan.
And it's interesting you say that, because I've got to just because one thing I wanted to say, which is consistent with what you're asking. I've got a really good, really, really close friend who's just a member of Parliament, state Parliament, and she's one of the major parties, and she just said to me, she goes, like, she wants to help me with some of the stuff that's going on with the police. And she said, "I'll help you wherever I can." But the issue is, for her, is the party politics. Because when you're in those major parties, they micromanage so much of the good work that you do away, and that's why we want to form this party, and we want to use this party as a tool to also build up the other parties that are like-minded, that have integrity, so that we can be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, look, ultimately, Tricky, I don't doubt that, if you got in there, or if any of you got in there, you'd start bouncing the walls. no question about that. I think the problem is the system's set up so that you're not going to get there. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's why you do it a different way. You don't
know,
follow the same plan. You've got to be completely active in social media. You've got to get on. You've got to reach out to all the big groups. See, the voices that are heard by the majority of politicians out there are not heard. Well, they're not heard by the most of the youth, and the younger people don't care. They don't. It's mind numbing. It's just noise to them. It means nothing. Now you start to, and now think about this, right? This is just one thing you could do. I could go to all of the fight gyms in Melbourne, and I could get my mates. I could form a group that go to the fight gyms to promote what we're doing. Then I could get these are young guys. Then I could get them sharing stuff on social media, being active on social media. These are people that are already active on social media. A lot of them are fighters that are active, and they're always doing that. Do you see how powerful that could be to get a message out there? Okay, we're not doing letterbox drops. We're doing something very different.
The problem is, Nick, I mean, look at Queensland in the Senate. You know, it is an uphill battle. I mean, you've got 6 spots. You're likely to have 2 Liberals, 2 Labor. You've got Larissa Waters, who's going up for re-election for the Greens. And then you've got Malcolm Roberts and Gerard Rennick, 2 of the finest politicians this country's ever seen in 100 years. And it's highly likely that one of them will miss out. I'm hopeful that they won't. But you know, you guys coming in, you know, I hope it has an impact. But look, the reality is, I think, you know, Gerard Rennick's got over 250,000 followers on Facebook, and there's still talk that he may not get elected. So it's an uphill battle. I mean, the system's designed to stop, you know, minor parties from getting in. I mean, the reason why the Liberal and the Labor Party and the Greens are so successful in the Senate is because they've got grassroots people running in the lower house, and that vote flows from those people that they know in their seat. Joe Bloggs, who, you know, turns up at the school and hands out money and turns up to the kids' farewell, you know, they vote for them, and then they put number 1 in the Senate ticket for them as well, and they know that. Yep,
that's worked for them for a long time.
That's why we've got to do something different.
Yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
And John, you are right. And this has been a big consideration of mine when I speak to my partner about going into this, because it's going to be bloody hard work. Which brings me back to the point that we need something different, which is what we're trying to create here. And for this to work, we need your guys' support, you know. We need the support of the people that have big names of this movement, that know us and trust us, that have seen the hard work that we put in for no other thing other than to try and bring some justice back to the people. You know, my son's vaccine injured. If anybody thinks I'm going to sell anything out for that, you're kidding yourself. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to tear these guys down. The way the voting system works is, you know, that it takes a lot of homework to try and work out how we can. There's a lot of levels, a lot of different strategies that we need to employ here to try and get the best out of this situation. Like you said, Joe Rick's got 250,000 followers on social media. Unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't equate to much these days because of the level of censorship. So, you know, I've got 100,000 across the social media platforms. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that much to me anymore because people don't get to see the material. One thing we do have in our favor now, this is, you know, a strategy that we're using here is the TPR line, which people have seen all over the country for the last 5 years. So when they go to vote on the ballot paper, they'll see that familiar line. Now that's purely strategic. And I want to emphasize this because, again, our main focus here is to bring people under the one banner. That line at this point is being used purely as a strategic reason so people can recognize it and put that number 1 on the tick in not the number 1 above the line. In the future, that will more than likely just get flipped, that logo. When people come, they will have an equal say on a suitable logo for the people to represent the people. But I do agree, John, it's a monumental task that we're undertaking here. I'm excited about it because I know we can do it. And I've been trying to call Hoodie, answer your phone, mate, about this for a while to try and to give him the heads up of what we're trying to do, because it's going to take more than us. It's really going to take a lot of genuine people that genuinely care about this country, genuinely care about the people in it, and want to get some difference happening. This is what it's about. So yeah.
And I think the other thing to add is that, people are more fed up than ever before. Just COVID, look at what it's done. It's destroyed the country. There's so many people who are vaccine injured. There's cost of living's gone through the roof, and everything is disguised under COVID, because that's just a great excuse to bring the country down and to globalize Australia. That's ultimately what's happening. Australia is becoming globalized.
So
And if we
even
don't,
with the COVID scenario, even the guys that were actively putting their hand up to get 5, 6 jabs and boosters, whatnot, and they've learned from that, they're going, you know what, I think it got ripped off here. That whole thing was a scam, was a lie, whatever they might have come to the realization they've come to. For them, that's old news. And unfortunately, that is the masses. That's old news. So, while it's extremely important that we never ever allow that sort of thing to happen again in this country, I don't believe personally that's probably not the strongest policy to be leading with. So, that's something I want to share too to everybody actually, because when you see these other minor parties and independents running their policies, you might go, well, hang on, why aren't they using that? It's because strategy needs to go into this, and we're looking at the masses here. And, we've got to get outside of our own echo chamber and going on about the mandates. That's old news to the majority of Australia. So we need to keep that in mind, guys. We need to get a bit smarter now and start really planning what we're doing. Sorry, whoever was talking, I think I interrupted.
Now that's what I wanted to discuss with you, because I've had a couple of politicians say to me who are on our side that even for me to run in the Senate, one of the greatest liabilities was going to be my involvement in Club Grubbery, because that's our involvement in what is loosely called the freedom movement.
Yep.
Works fine, but not even in amongst people of the freedom movement, because they're very fickle as well. Anyone who thinks that people inside the freedom movement are different to people on the other side have got rocks in their heads. That's not right.
Absolutely.
We're a very fickle group of people, and I know that as we get closer to the election, some of the politicians who appear on this platform are likely going to appear less for that reason. So you guys are activists, and you've been prominent in that space. How are you actually going to reach those people outside the echo chamber in an effective way? Because the mainstream media are probably not going to be very kind to you.
I think a key thing is actually going in and talking to the communities. So that's how Tricky and Tristan, Nick and myself have all been successful in terms of appealing to the public, because we've actually, I started a group called Informed Choice Network. Again, that was in relation to do with COVID, but it was all about that grassroots level that you were talking about, that the major parties have done for decades now, and they've got the budgets to do it. It's doing it at the grassroots level, not necessarily big media campaigning and advertising. We don't have the funds to do that anyway at this stage. As Nick mentioned, we're not actually charging for anyone to become a member of Power to People. So it's going to be the grassroots level. It's actually going in, talking to the communities, going to the local markets, going to community events, sporting clubs, where we actually see real people and they actually see who we are, and that we're not just fake politicians who are, talking about the same line, the same punchline, but actually not doing anything. So their actions are totally not being followed through on. So that's I don't know if Tristan, you want to add to that, or Nick, in terms of how you see that we're going to promote ourselves.
I think social media is a big one. I've got a few plans, and I'm just thinking creatively that I want to reach out to people in the churches, because you get an audience of people in the churches. You let them know who you are, what you're doing. And then you create a team of people that go to the churches, but also go to the fight gyms as well. So they're two big communities. And then you ask these people, you've got to share a vision. You've got to sell the idea to people. We can win, but we've got to be active on social media. can you share this stuff? Can you share our content? Can you share this? And you just be really big on that, because that's where you're going to have the loudest voice, and you're going to become known by people sharing things. But you go to big groups that are aligned with our values. I think the churches is a great place, and I'm not saying that all the churches are great. I'm sure there's a lot of corrupt ones out there. I know there are, but there's a lot of them that are genuine. So you be active there. This is what I plan to do, is to be active in the churches and ask them to share our content on social media, and just to get our name out there, and then just keep sharing content that these people can see. Same with the fight gyms. I'm involved in the homeschool community, so you share all this stuff in the homeschool community. So there's some big communities there, and they're not all freedom movement people. There's a lot of the homeschool community are, but a lot of them aren't as well. The fight community mostly are not. The gym community is mostly not. Then you've got the church community, most of them are not in what we call the freedom movement. So they're the big groups, the big communities that I would like to hit here in Victoria. I think it's going to be different for each of us, because we have different skills and different communities that we're involved in. But that's how I see us having the biggest impact and reaching as many people, at least in Victoria, is tapping into all of those other communities, and bringing a lot of the younger people in and getting them to share our content and be active on social media. And I'm confident that I could get a really good team of people doing that, and that could give us a much better chance at least being known by a lot of people. And I think a lot of people are disenfranchised with the major parties anyway. And if there's a face there and they go, you know what, I'm going to vote for that guy because I've heard something about that guy, I've seen one of his videos. That's the idea.
Can I ask you, I want you to imagine that you've been in the Senate for the last 4 years. You've got a couple of years left to go. Were there any policies in the current government that any one of you would have supported voting in the Senate? Can you think of any? And I'm not asking you to say, no, they're all rubbish. I mean, this is leaning into, where you guys are at with what's going on in there. And have there been any good decisions made by Labor in the last 4 years?
Good decisions by Labor. You got me really.
Not that I know of.
Gobsmacked.
But I also don't have the time at the present to spend looking at I'm focused on other things, solutions, rather than looking at the problem, because I look at Labor as being just the problem now. I think they come from a place that was potentially very good, although it's possible that they didn't. I don't know if you've ever read Bob Hawke's. He spoke at the 100-year anniversary of the Fabian Society. I don't know if you ever read his letter, his speech actually at the Fabian Society, and he literally talks about political gradualism 3 times, which is, if you go back to the writings of George Bernard Shaw, who was one of the founders of the Fabian Society, they talked about setting up a strong Labor Party that would be the catalyst to implement their agenda. And it's to slowly wear people out, which is what Bob Hawke mentions 3 times, political gradualism. And that's the mechanism they use to wear us down as a culture and as a society into conforming to this Fabian agenda. I wouldn't waste my time but if someone was to show me something, someone that I trusted, hey, Nick, have a look at this. This is actually something very positive from the Labor Party. I would have a look at it.
Well, it's an interesting point you raised, Hoodie, there, because the fact that the situation is there's so much legislation getting pushed through and debated in the Senate and the lower house that you need 6 full-time staff to go over it. And the previous senators that you've mentioned at times have voted, I would say, against the people. And I think that would probably come from not having the head around what's going on. An example of that is the Defence Legislation Amendment Bill 2020. That was probably, in my eyes, one of the most treasonous bills ever presented in this country, and that got put through. And I won't say who voted for it and who abstained from voting, but if you go back and look at that, it's not a good result. And it's the type of stuff that we really need to start considering here. Why is this happening? How can we do it better in the future? And one of the key things here is don't listen to what people say, look at their actions. because a lot of and I'm with you, Hoodie. There are some good politicians, absolutely there are, and that's why I think it's worthwhile doing this and trying to bring those good politicians under one banner. But the fact is, completely lost my train of thought. That's what the fact is just there. What was I saying?
Good politicians, legislation, Labor, six staffers, full-time staffers.
Yeah, I've lost it. But
Have you got half a dozen policies? That'd be a good start. I mean, because the Jared Rennicks of the world just aren't one-trick ponies. They're not just talking about COVID.
oh no, look, you speak to Rennick about the economy. He's a mastermind, absolutely brilliant when it comes to economy. I'd love to see him in a debate against some of the people that would consider on the other side, pushing the other side, because I'd be betting a lot of he's good. This is why we have a chat with him, and try and meld this together, because I think great minds have to come together and really start pushing this forward. If we don't get it together and we stay separate, it's not going to happen. This is something I really think that needs to happen.
So there are so many fluid events going on in the world at the moment. I mean, 2025 is going to be a horror. There's no doubt about it. There's so much ready to go wrong. Many people say we're already at war, and I tend to agree with them. Actually, I think we're seeing genocide in many different forms, in many different arenas. I think we're seeing evil agendas being played out. I think we've now pretty much accepted the fact that what happened in Wuhan was gain of function, and that was man-made and deliberately brought upon the people. And look, all these facts are coming out. So there is potential, all going in your favour, that one or more of you will be in the Senate, probably under Peter Dutton as Prime Minister, because I don't think Labor will get in again. That's just my uneducated view. But there'll be things that will be talked about that a lot of us who are contemplating the issues that we're facing today, they're going to fade into the background. Things like foreign policy are going to be really big. For example, I want to cite something that I think Labor did well from my perspective, and that is, I think Penny Wong's stand on a two-state solution in Israel-Palestine, I think is a good policy, is a good stand. And I admire her for standing up and saying that. I'm not a fan of Penny Wong, but we have to have a worldview as well, especially in these times. What do you think, Nick?
When it comes to really, I like to hold this position on a lot of the international crises, and that's we need to focus on it on Australia, on our homegrown issues. We've got to deal with these issues first. I don't think there's any great advantage in us focusing on external problems when we have enough of our own. I think, and this has been a pilot, you don't go and start saving people when there's a crash, or you got this major turbulence and the doors have blown off. You got to fasten your own, breathing apparatus and everything first.
But you don't think international affairs affect domestic politics?
I think they do, but I think that's not the primary thing we should be focusing on. It should be our own issues here. Like when you look at the, what's happening in Israel, and it's so divided, right? It's so divided, and definitely as something that we would want to run on. It would have to be something that affects people here, that people could agree on, because there's people with integrity on both sides of the Israel-Palestine situation, right? So we want to bring people with integrity together. So we want to build on the common beliefs rather than principles that are going to divide that vote. We want to bring people with integrity in and get behind us, and that's straight away that's something that's going to divide people from us straight off the bat. And I don't think it's the most urgent issue for us. I think it's the most, I think we have our own issues we need to deal with before we deal with that.
The reason I raise it is that there may come a time when politicians will be asked to vote on whether they send Australian sons and daughters. And I mean, these are the things we get so focused on domestic politics, and then all of a sudden, like all the stuff that we've been fighting in COVID, all gets blown out the window if there's a nuclear war between Russia and NATO. These are the things that are on the edge, and we all need to have a thought about those things, because they affect the cost of living. if there's a war in the Middle East, the price of fuel is going to go through the roof. The cost of food is going to go through the roof. So I'm not saying people have to take a side in the geopolitical sense, but we need to be aware of what is likely to impact our domestic politic.
But also, if we weren't giving away $149 billion of our natural gas, our cost of living and our energy prices wouldn't be there too. So that's an internal issue that we can deal with here. And then we could, like, if we had that $149 billion plus all the rest of it that we haven't equated for, you imagine what that would really mean if it was actually held in the Commonwealth. And we actually had that and was given to the people, so these are issues that we could straight away empower ourselves with, what we actually should be able to empower ourselves with, which is resources, and the Commonwealth, the actual Commonwealth that belongs to us. It's meant to be our Commonwealth. But instead, while we could be focusing on external things, whilst there's politicians just making dirty deals and giving it away, giving all of our stuff, our valuable stuff, our resources away to foreign corporations, and then once they finish their tenure as a politician, those politicians end up going and working for those companies. So that's happening, and that's. Sorry, mate. Go on.
You're right.
Yeah, go on.
In terms of supporting these foreign wars, though, as well, almost every war has been played since the late 1700s by certain powerful families that manipulate, control things. War's always very profitable. There's always hidden agendas behind it. We have an Australian Defence Force, the key word being Defence Force. I don't think we have any right going and interfering in foreign wars that don't have, the Palestine-Israel war, there's innocent families being killed, innocent children being killed on both sides of the fence. Unfortunately, that has nothing to do with it at the moment. Those foreign wars that have been provoked, Russia and Ukraine, it has nothing to do with us over here. I'm all for using the Defence Force to defend the country, but we should not be getting involved in these proxy wars that are, there's a lot of hidden agendas behind it that run a lot deeper than what a lot of people understand. And we need to be very cautious of just putting a hand up saying, yeah, let's go support it, or no, we shouldn't support it. There's a lot more detail that goes into it. Like Nick says, the domestic policies such as, well, it's not just domestic either, is it? When you talk about all this natural resources, they're being shipped overseas to loosely connected to the same people that are funding these wars, but there's no royalties attached, there's no taxes attached. Meanwhile, our brothers and sisters are in tents at an alarmingly growing rapid rate in all the cities all around the country. It's a hard, deep conversation to be had, but we need to be really careful of getting sucked in by certain warmongering countries that have been in charge for a long time. We need to be really tactful about that, and that's a hard conversation to have.
My question was really basically set up around the notion of, there are times when I've watched Jackie Lambie, for example, in the Senate, when she's clearly out of her depth. She's asked to vote on something that she completely doesn't understand. And it does have an effect on domestic politics. I mean, as I said, the cost of living. You can have different positions on who's doing what and why, but there are going to be times when anyone elected is going to have to make very, very tough decisions. And I want to personally know myself that the people I vote for have the capacity to deal with those in the right way and have thought about it before it happens. And that's the only reason I raise it, Nick. I'm not trying to take away from what's going on. I believe the biggest issue we've got in this country, apart from homelessness and the cost of living, is this renewable energies rubbish that's going on. It's going through the country. That stuff matters. That really matters.
Absolutely.
I agree with you. We're trying to build a broad picture of what you guys are about, because I think it's really important. We've got to take this seriously.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. Yeah. I really enjoy your comments, because the thing to remember here is that we're not, we're people of the community. We're not these typical politicians. We're not going to sit here and pretend like we have all the answers to everything, because we don't. But what we can rely on is good people around us that can advise us. The technocrats, the experts off their field. We'll have these good people around us. Being the head of TPA over the last 5 years, I've built an extremely strong network of very powerful, educated people in their own fields. Our barrister they introduced Nick to, 4 decades experience as a barrister. He's an ex-military officer himself. He's got one of the most strategic and brilliant minds I've ever been in touch with. And he's put me in touch with a lot of his connections, which are equally as brilliant. So the bottom line is, we're not going to sit and pretend that we have all the answers, but we have but we're genuine, honest, and we have a lot of integrity. And that's what this country is lacking in the political system. And that's what we offer that these guys don't. And when we get in there, we have full-time staff, we have good people around us, and we'll continue to make the best decisions in the best interest of the people and the children going forward. So that's what this is all about.
And let me just, can I just add there's the famous proverb, there is safety in a multitude of counsel. So you always go and get the best counsel from the best people before you make a decision, and a prayerful decision at that. And especially if it's got one thing that we have is, see, if we were actually, I'll reframe the way I make this statement. If I was a career politician, I would have amazing answers for that question. I would just know exactly what to say. But does it mean it's true? Probably not. But what I can give you is my word that I will do my absolute best to do what I believe is morally right, and I'll get all the counsel from all the best people that I possibly can to do the best that I can. And when I say that, I actually mean it.
That was the answer I was looking for. Okay, that was the answer I was looking for. Because there are too many people with glib answers that seem to make them look good. I'm looking for integrity that's seen in open honesty amongst the people who are going to be running. Johnny, I've been talking too much.
You should. You've just let your secret out now. Everybody else that comes on your show next is going to know the right answer. Well done, Hoody.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we all agree on is the fact that we're not going to have the answers to everything, because we're not politicians. And a lot of these, you say, what policies does Labor have? Good policies does Labor have? Well, unfortunately, Labor no longer stands for Labor. Labor and Liberal have pretty much become one party, and they're passing the same policies in the Senate, and they're standing for the same fraudulent campaigns. So they really, unfortunately, don't have much distinction anymore at all. And that's where small parties, independent parties, have that point of difference, because we're not going to be bought out. We don't have any personal interests. We're not looking to build a career through this and to make money out of this. We're really here because we've got morals, we've got integrity, and we've gone through the system ourselves. I mean, I myself, I'm so familiar with how corrupt unfortunately, the legal framework in Australia is at every level, local, state, federal. So it's breaking through those layers, exposing that, and standing true by what we say. We're actually going to be standing by our words and by our actions. And I don't see that there's any way that we can be corrupted through this process. But the first step is actually registering our party. So that's really what we need to do. That's where we really need people's support, if they believe that, they resonate with what we stand for. They followed our journeys. They believe that we've got honesty, integrity, and courage. Courage is a key thing. If you don't have courage, unfortunately, often you don't have integrity. So being able to be fearless, to be able to go into this is a really key thing that I think we'll have, the three of us.
I just want to go back to what Hoody was saying before. You want to have confidence in the person that you're voting for. So I guess that's a good statement to make. And I guess the message to the people at home is, what do you consider the role of a politician to be? Is it somebody that thinks they know everything about everything, will never apologize, will never say they've made a mistake? Because that's, when I look around, that's the majority of politicians we have at the moment.
Yeah, it is.
But in my eyes, they're meant to be a representative of the people. And, that's what many of us have been doing for the last however many years, very staunchly. We've never taken a back foot. We've represented the people more than anything else. We've never given into the intimidation or the harassment campaigns by the police or the government or what so it be. And I think, these are the underpinning criteria of this party being created. That's what makes us us. And that's, you want change. If you're going to vote for the same type of people that have already been in this country running things, you're not going to get change. If you want change, vote for change. But the other important thing here, look at the digital ID bill. This is a good example in the Senate, the digital ID bill. Now, some people think we can save the Liberal Party. Get in there, put our own people in there and save it. The whole thing's a facade. The Liberals came out and said they were going to vote against the digital ID bill. They didn't. They voted for it. You look at the numbers. They voted no with the majority of the LNP party, a certain amount of numbers, but they also withheld, don't quote me, maybe, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 6, I can't remember. They withheld 3 or 6 votes purposely, and that allowed that bill to go through. So as soon as you start analyzing this and really look at the numbers, how much of this is gamesmanship? Yep, we're gonna save face here. We're gonna vote against the digital ID, but we're also going to strategically withhold a certain amount of votes, meaning it will go through anyway. This is the typical political landscape that we're dealing with. This needs to be exposed. The people need to start looking into this themselves and really start looking at how people are voting, not what they're saying and acting, because the majority of politicians are good actors. They're really well trained, and I've seen it in person many times. And I tip my hat to them because they do a good job of what they do. But that's not going to save this country. If you want change, vote for change, guys.
Johnny.
How many people do you need to sign up to get the party registered?
Well, so you need between, according to the AEC, you need between 1,500 and 1,650. Now, if you only get 1,500, there's a small sample the AEC take, and don't quote me again, they might take 12 people and they will contact those 12 people, but they give you no chances with that 12 people. If you give them the 1,650 as a sample, they'll sample a bigger number of people, maybe 30 odd, again, don't quote me, but you get maybe a dozen chances of non-contacts or people, not answering the phone or not replying to the emails. So strategically speaking, we're going for 1,650 plus 200, which will allow for any, mess ups during the membership sign up. So, we need a couple of, I think, what was it, 150 or 200 extra at the time of starting this interview.
We're almost there. We've been doing this for about 10 days. Maybe a bit longer. Not much. It's been, I think, less than 2 weeks. So I think we're nearly there.
And
I really want to see you get over the line. So sorry, John.
No, I was just going to say, when do you need to get those numbers by?
Well, see, this is the hard part. We don't know when the election is getting called. It will, the AEC have a minimum time frame of 3 to 4 months, depending on what happens. That puts us in either late March, April, or May. If it gets called in early March, even mid-March or February, we won't be registered in time, which means, look, that's out of our hands. All we know is that we're doing this. We've thrown our hats in the ring. We need people to sign up. As soon as that's done, we'll make the application, and the rest is in God's hand. We'll see what happens. And we
in answer to your question, yesterday. So yesterday is really when we needed those sign-ups, and as soon as we can get them, the sooner we can register, as Tristan said.
So that's your priority at the moment, really, isn't it, to get registered?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Phase 1, get the numbers, make the application. We've had discussions behind the scenes, what if we don't get registered in time? And there's some really promising things that we can still do in terms of building that alliance still and bringing, it might even work in favor, because we'd be seen, from the people on the other side of the paddock that we're trying to bring in, would be seen as, maybe less prejudice towards ourselves, less, that's probably not the right word, less, not as much favoritism if we're not registered, you know what I mean? So I'm very open to any outcome here.
Tricky.
Yeah.
Tricky. Do you believe that you're being called to this?
Well, man, this is the way being pushed since I was a child. When COVID hit, everything I thought I knew about the world that had researched the last 15, 18 years came true overnight when I realized what was happening with COVID. And that's when the feeling came into me, and I spoke, organized and spoke at the first rally in King George Square. I'd never spoken publicly at that stage. And
Well, the reason I asked that question, though, was just because I was going to quote you Romans 8, verse 28. All things turn out for good to those who are the called according to his purpose. And there's some real power to that. When God's got a plan regardless. Now, we've been driven.
Nick, as an example, I'll call you and I pitched to you what this vision I've had with this political thing.
Yep.
And I just remember you jumping out your skin, mate. Oh, this is your vision. I can see it with you. I'm backing you, man. Let's go. I've got your back. And
100%.
that's the reaction that I want for people to have, because when you speak with this and there's no other bullshit around it, you're doing it because that's what you're being called to do. You put your ego to the side. This is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm going to go for it. And then
there is one big question that everyone needs to ask, and then we've got to wrap it up.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
don't win an election unless you've got money. How are you going to raise the money?
Well, how much you got, Hoodie? You've been a pilot for many years. Come on, lend a brother a dollar, eh? Look, and that is a big part of the things that need to come into play. Obviously, there's discussions with people that have been introduced to us, and they basically need to see viability. Once we have viability, I do foresee things come together at a very quick rate. Um, and I'm just trying to focus on the phase one, getting that done, progressing things as they need to progress. And if this is meant to happen, things will start falling into line. So I'm not worried. Things will fall into line as we need them to.
I don't know about Mariya, but I know that Tricky and I both know quite a few people that are willing to back us and support us financially in this. I think if you get a big campaign going and you're reaching a lot of people, you can get support that way as well, which is exactly how I've funded my legal battle as well. So you can get, I'm not saying crowdfunding, but I'm just saying getting sponsors and people behind you that want to share the same vision. And we do. Tristan and I have spoken about this. I'm not sure about Mariya, but we know some people that do have quite a bit of money, and they're willing to help us out. To what degree, I don't know, but that's up to God to open those doors up.
To be
And
honest, like Hoodie too, like I'd rather this come from the people, to be honest, rather than a few big sponsors, because that does lead down different pathways. We're sitting here talking about corrupt politicians. Now, part of the issue is when you start taking large sums of donation, whether it be from an individual or a company or overseas foreign interest, whatever it is, doesn't matter where it comes from. If there are massive amounts of money coming in, more often than not, they're going to want something. And unless they are people that align with our morals and values, then we're going to have problems right from the start. So these are considerations that we've discussed, and in my sense of view, we just want to create groundswell, and this is why we've come on your platform today, Hoodie and Lada, and I appreciate you guys having us onto it because you guys have built this up over the years, just doing awesome interviews, and you get really good amount of views on it, which is important. And what we want to happen is the people get behind us as they have during the very hard previous 5 years when we're on the street going hard. We want the same people to get behind us and help create the groundswell and get this thing moving. This is what needs to happen.
Johnny.
Well, I wish you guys luck. I think you're very good people, and you would make a difference if you got in there. I think the problem is the system's set up for failure. That's the problem. And until you come up with some other novel way of beating the system, I'm not sure. Personally, I just don't think social media and the like is going to cut it. I mean, the Labor Party and the Liberal Party and the Greens, they're a step ahead of everyone. They're out door knocking, they're out doing everything that's possible to get elected. That's their whole entire purpose. And unfortunately, the majority of people that are watching mainstream media still think that we're nut jobs.
Yeah.
So I mean, until that changes, I think it's going to be a very difficult battle. Not that I don't wish you the best, and you've got to have a go. I mean, that's you can't die wondering what's going to happen. But I mean, I don't want you to be, I mean, I've been through this process a few times, and I can tell you it's very disheartening when you put everything into it,
Yeah.
and then nothing comes out the other end.
John, one thing though, and I get you, and I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate your honesty, and I do feel like you support us because you want to see good people in there. But what we also have to remember here is that we've had hundreds of thousands of people physically attend our events in the last 4 years. If we can get these guys reactivated, that's an insane amount of people. Even if it's a small percentage of it, that's a big number of people that are going to be able to do letterbox drops, door knocking, stand in the boots, all that sort of thing. They might have copious amounts of money, but we got people power to people. This is what this is about, and that's what we got to fall back on.
The other thing too
Sorry.
is Donald Trump freely admits that he didn't win the election through the mainstream media. It was social media.
Yep.
Even Billy Bay the other day when he appeared on Rowan Dean's program on Sky News, they had about 30,000 views. When he appeared on Michael Gray Griffith's show, when he just walked out of the court, they had hundreds of thousands.
Yep.
So there is a new media that's sort of emerging, and this I guess awkwardly is part of that. And the whole landscape's changed, and all we can do is I know, Nick, you and I are right into this. It's if God wants this to happen, it'll happen, and He owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. And if it's based in integrity, that's got the best chance that it can have. But once again, we keep talking about the system. John says the system, the system, the system. That's the problem. And the only way to change the system is to get good people in there to change it from within. And that's the hard part. It's just so frustrating.
What we're calling on, Hoodie, is for belief and positivity. You know, we achieved really big things in that movement when we pushed all the other stuff to a side and we came together. We could do anything. And I'm really calling on people at home to put your disagreements aside. You might not like me for some small reason. You might not like Nick or Mariya or Hoodie or John or whatever it is, or anybody else I'm talking about, any other good man or woman. Put that to the side and realize it's not about you and what you've experienced. It's about your children that are going to inherit this in the future. So if you believe in if you put that aside and go, you know what, Tricky could actually do this, Nick could actually do this, Hoodie could actually do this, put that stuff to the side, put those small differences that sometimes have this tendency to develop into this massive snowball running down the mountain. Be bigger than that. Be big. Step outside of that and go, you know what? I'm going to go with these guys. I reckon they can do it. Put a tick in the box, and get involved. This is the main thing. Positivity. See, envision that we can do this together. Not me, not Nick, us together. This is the power of people. This is about us bringing this back to the country for one last chance. Let's do this.
And that's why I think I'm trying to be so honest with everyone out there about how difficult this is. Because, if these guys are going to get elected and we're going to get good people in there, it's going to require every one of you out there to actually get off your backsides and do something. You can't just rely on someone else to do it.
So, John, just so you know, like I was, two of my mates, or one of them is a really good mate of mine, and another guy who he's not really much of a friend anymore, but he was back then. We started a party called the Aussie Battler Party in the past. I've been through this process before, so I've learnt quite a lot from it before. And then I was in the Liberal Party for 4 years as well, and I was very active in there. It's not like I haven't done anything in politics. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I also understand that there is a God who has a whole lot more resources at his disposal, and he can very quickly get your name out there, get our names out there for whatever reason in the minds of people if it needs be. So it's about faith, because if we think we're going to win with financial resources, well, that's ridiculous. That's delusional. So we need to do everything that we can do. But then we need to rely on that divine providence that comes from above to give us everything else we need to be able to get the win. And that's been my experience with with all the court cases. I was prosecuted, as you know, 4 times by the corrupt police. 4 times. I was told by people, you can't beat the police. It's all corrupt. You can't win. I beat them 4 times. I beat them 4 times because I believed I could. And literally every single resource I needed was provided for me all the way through at the very moment that I needed it. I was self-represented 3 times, and one of the times I lost in the magistrate's court, and I thought I need to do a review in the Supreme Court. Had no idea how to do it. Literally in that thought, I get a message from somebody, and he reaches out, "Hey, I'm a friend of a friend. I've done a whole bunch of judicial reviews. I just saw you lost your case. I want to help you do a judicial review." Then we ended up getting a precedent set in the state of Victoria where nearly every single COVID fine was thrown out because of that precedent. And see, it was all, you could see that's all God's timing. Step by step, everything was provided when I needed it. So that's been my experience. So that's where I'm coming from. And I believe if I'm totally focused and I got faith, and we can inspire other people to be activated the same way. Basically, what my end result from this would be that we reach the minds of many people and inspire them to be completely and totally committed in the heart and in the mind to fix the problems that we have and to be their best selves that they can be at solving the problems that we have and being part of the solution. That's what I want to do. And I believe that's a pretty righteous and decent thing to be active in doing. I can't see why God wouldn't bless that and provide us with that opportunity to be able to do that, because we're willing. Think of Isaiah, who will I send? Put my hand up, here am I. I'm here. And we're here ready to do what needs to be done, not because of vain ambition, but because we know that there's something that needs to be said and something that needs to be done, which will inspire the rest of the people, the warriors, to step up and take our country back and do what's needed to in the end.
And I think just to add to
Mariya.
that as well is a lot, you know, all of this is focused through the mind games. A lot of it's in here. So we have to really reach the hearts of people and actually do it through the heart, doing it because we stand by our firm belief, and that is to stand on the truth. This is what we've stood on this whole time over the last however many years. For myself, it's been, you know, since seeing the exposure of what's happened from 2020, but also, unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of these groups are so divided. In the freedom movement, they're divided. They're trying to create division everywhere. So that's something that we want to do, is come together and unite people. And so with that objective in mind, that's ultimately our aim, is to come together, reach out to all of these other existing parties, existing politicians who already have a lot of experience in the game, who are good people, who are voting against these corrupt laws, to come together. That's really going to be our point of difference.
All righty. Well, we've gone an hour and a half or more. So I've got a lot of, well, I've just got to get this out as soon as I can. So we better bring it to a close, guys. We'd love to have you back on as things develop and things progress. Albanese's been very cagey, as they always are, about when they're going to call the next election. He reckons May, but he could call it earlier. You need all the time you can get. But anyhow, that's God's timing. Well, that's what I believe anyway. Nick, do you want to pray us out?
I'd love to do that. Thanks a lot. Father in heaven, thank you for your blessings. Thank you for the power and the strength and the confidence and the conviction that you put on our hearts. And we pray that you will give us a bright, bright beacon of light to share to the world, and that you'll give us power over our enemies. And we pray that you'll continue to place stumbling blocks before our enemies and cause them to fail at everything they seek to do against us and against our families and against the work we do to glorify you. We pray that you'll give us power, and you'll give us conviction, and you'll give us a fearless and relentless will to continue to do everything we can to let our light shine and to inspire others and to lift people up. And we pray that we'll be able to be the best examples we can be, and that we'll be able to be true servants, just the way our Lord and Saviour was. And this we pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. God bless you. So, as I said, the first in a series that we'll be running over the next few months, and we want to put the heat on the people who come on, because we want to know what you're thinking and how you're thinking, and we make no apologies for that. We've got to do it that way, otherwise we're just not credible. None of us are credible unless we can stand up against the heat of debate. So,
Yes.
I've really enjoyed it, and thank you all for coming on. Nick Patterson, Mariya Shumandiy, and Tristan Van Rye. Good luck with what you're doing. It's power to people, power the number 2 people.com.au. We'll put the links up in the description, and we will get you guys back on. Johnny, you've often been heard to say,
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
you couldn't make this stuff up. It's a great country,
Thank you, John.
everybody.
Appreciate it.
It's a great country. It's a great country because you live in it, whether you like us or not. We all make up this wonderful nation, and it deserves to be better represented. So let's pray that this happens. God bless you all. Stay out of the trees. What you did yesterday got you to today, and we'll see you next time on Club Grubbery. Bye for now.
There you
See
go.
you guys. Bye.